That's really cool. You got to do that, and of course, in John Waters' old backyard. He's from that area.
Yeah. And we had costumes that very much enhanced our female parts down below, and so you can check that out.
I'm Matt Pinfield, and I am happy to be with you today. We did say that we were going to have a very special guest with us, and I'm excited that Donita Sparks is here from L7. Donita, how are you?
I'm good, Matt. How are you?
I'm psyched that, we kind of saw each other, but, more online during the pandemic a lot because we were both doing like a show. Like,
yes.
Through that streaming service that, Linda Perry and those guys had and carried. And it was, and you were doing the show every day, and I think, or maybe it was like once a week?
Yeah, it was once a week out of my living room, and it was called The High-Low Show. And it was just kind of, I was playing myself, but sort of inspired a bit by Andy Kaufman, just kind of like a character of myself.
Yeah.
So that was kind of fun. And it got weird, and we did some cool stuff and remote karaoke and just kind of psychedelic kind of stuff.
I thought it was very cool what you were doing. I looked forward to it. I remember I called my interview show In a Lonely Place with Matt Pinfield because I was by myself at the time. And right after that, like so many people that kind of fell off the wagon during the pandemic, I got sober after that. May 8th is my sober date. So it was like, and then I went away for a month, and then I came back, and we kept doing the shows. But it was always great. And not the last time that we actually really saw each other, you were remastering Bricks Are Heavy with Butch Vig in the studio with Howie Weinberg, our friends. So it was just great to be there and be a part of that.
Yes, and you helped me present a faux gold record to Butch Vig. Do you remember that?
Yes. Oh, that's right.
Yes. L7 never got a full accounting of our record, Bricks Are Heavy, so we don't know if it went gold or not. It could have. I have no idea. So we took matters into our own hands, and we made a gold record and presented it to Butch Vig, and you kind of were the MC for that event.
Yeah. It was...
and the gold record plaque said, for the sale of perhaps 500,000 records.
Yes, because no one really knows if we got the true count from the record label.
No one knows. Who knows? And I don't care.
It was unbelievable. And Donita, I invited you in, and I was so happy you were going to come in because, of course, we play you on the SoCal Sound, everybody here at the station, but you've got this really cool thing that's happening Saturday at the Belasco Theater, which is such a great old theater in downtown LA.
Yeah.
And I'm very excited about it because it's L7's Fear and Frightening Takeover.
Fast and Frightening Takeover.
I said Fear and Frightening. Well,
yeah. Fear of Loathing.
That was redundant. Yeah, remember the Fear and Frightening.
Fear of Loathing.
Yeah,
Festival.
exactly.
Why not?
No, but it's so Fast and Frightening. So what's really cool that's never been done before, Donita, is 3 stages going on in the theater at one time. Tell me about that.
Yeah, we're gonna be kind of ping-ponging between the basement stage, the ballroom stage, and the main stage. It's a beautifully restored old theater. Like, just go to check out the place. It's just fabulous. But we just wanted a festival, a mini festival that wasn't out in a dusty field somewhere, and a place where you could lounge and get a cocktail if you wanted, and it's all ages. So it was just kind of, but I will tell you, Matt, it's been an amazing, stressful undertaking to curate this, and I kind of don't know what I was thinking, but it's turning out really, really well. So that's Saturday night.
I think what's exciting about it too is it's you have direct support Red Kross, who's a band that came up legendary, in the Los Angeles, Southern California area. And there's a documentary, of course. There's going to be, I know they've had some friends and family screenings, but there's a documentary on December 5th, and I'll be doing the Q&A with the McDonald brothers and Andrew, the director, at the Chinese Theater on Hollywood Boulevard. And I'm going to watch the movie this weekend because I'm going to get a stream of it, which I'm excited at some point Sunday,
Oh, I want to see that. Totally.
But it should be cool, but you've had a couple different docs really done, if you think about it, or at least the start of one. But I love your documentary on L7. It's just great. How did you enjoy it and think were you guys happy with it?
Well, our documentary came out a few years ago. It's called L7 Pretend We're Dead, named after our biggest hit that did or did not go gold. Who knows?
Yeah.
But Yeah, it was. We had a lot of home movie footage from the 90s and the late 80s. And so I was like, what are we going to do with this? Maybe we'll tell our story with this from our own perspective instead of handing a bunch of tapes over to somebody else. It was like, I'm not going to do that. I'm just not going to trust anybody with our tone and our story. So we kind of hired a director to put it all together and told our story the way we wanted to.
I think it's great because it's such a big part of, Los Angeles, Southern California, and punk rock history here.
And grunge.
And grunge, right, too. Because you was both. I mean, you guys, it was, and you got, it was in the 90s when things really, were hungry for stinking, of course. Bricks Are Heavy. Yeah. People were, we played that, people were playing it all over the country, so it was great. It was an incredible time. And I saw you guys at Reading Festival in '92, which was the craziest.
Ooh.
I love it. Well, you did one of the most punk rock things of all time on stage that day, and just I love strong women with, I've always appreciated that, having a mom, little Irish mom who's 92 now and is still tough as nails, but a big heart, Yeah. And I have two daughters, right? And I have a partner, girlfriend. But I've always, appreciated that. I always loved music from women that are just, fearless and just really not afraid to be themselves. And I think that's
because
so
you're cool and you're comfortable in your masculinity to love the ladies.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. Absolutely.
There you go.
But you guys were so cool that day, and I just love the way you reacted. Because, the audiences sometimes can be crazy in England, especially when it's raining one day and it's muddy. But no matter what, it's like you got the hooligan guys, right? They're like football hooligans. Yeah. And sometimes they're kind, sometimes they're too drunk. And so their behavior, and they had to be put in their place, and you did it. And I thought that was a really cool thing. But there was a lot of people there that were loving the band too. So there was that faction. That's what I loved. You know what I mean?
Well, when you're being pelted with mud, number one, it hurts. It's like an assault. That's what was happening to us that day. And we weren't the only band that got it. But, when you're a female band in a rock world, you're kind of a minority. And so just, things trigger you like, wow, is this misogynistic going on right now? Like, why are they throwing mud at us? Why are these dudes throwing mud at us? So it was just a reaction to that. And it was a little absurd and a little, it was a little John Waters in there too. What I did, so
And speaking of John Waters, right? You were in the John Waters film, which is so cool because I think we're all John Waters fans.
We're all John Waters fans. Yes.
It's really funny. I there's a story about Steve Lukather and his wife from Toto, who on his first date with his wife, he took her to see Pink Flamingos, and it's like that's when you know whether you can hang with someone.
That's right.
If you can go see Divine and Edie the Egg Lady in a film, a John Waters film, and you can make it through Pink Flamingos, and you. Right. You don't storm out of the theater.
It's an excellent litmus test.
Yes.
For a date. Like if they can hang with that, then it's like, okay, cool. I can work with any other things that are different about us. But if you can pass the Pink Flamingos test, that's a good thing.
Being a John Waters fan, which we all are, and tell me about how you ended up being a part of that movie, because there were some cool people like yourselves. And then, remember, Steve Baters from the Dead Boys Lives in the New Church was in Polyester. Like Iggy, of course, was in Hairspray.
Debbie Harry was in Hairspray also, right?
Yes.
The request came from John through our management, and I thought it was a joke. I thought my manager was like just messing with us,
Yeah.
But it was like, John Waters wants you to be in his film, and he wants you to play a band called Camel Lips, and the name of the film is Serial Mom, starring Kathleen Turner. And we were like, what? This is so amazing. And it actually happened. And we went to Baltimore and we shot at, Hammerjacks, which was a famous sort of punk club, rock club in Baltimore. Yeah. And next thing we know, we're on a set with Kathleen Turner, and it was pretty wild. And Ricky Lake and everybody. It was wild.
That's really cool. You got to do that. And, of course, in John Waters' old backyard, he's from that area.
Yeah. And we had costumes that very much enhanced our female parts down below. And so you can check that out.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of heavy-duty crotch action in our costumes.
It's amazing. I was John Waters. He's always like, there's just so many funny moments in there.
Yeah.
Like as a kid, I didn't know who Tab Hunter was until I saw him in that in Polyester. Polyester being, and they, for those people listening, for you, if you may or may not know this, and if you bought the Criterion DVD, it was you almost got the theater experience that we got when I was like 17, 18 years old in the theater, because they had smell-o-vision, right?
Odorama.
Odorama. Yeah, so it was a scratch and sniff.
Yes.
So like every time this number would come up on the screen on the John Waters movie, you would scratch it and smell it.
Yes.
And I remember one time it was a guy holding flowers, and then he switches his hand, and it's like moldy sneakers. It was like, we're like, oh, you hear the whole
really
audience
fun.
go.
Talk about interactive, right?
Yeah,
I mean, you know.
Yeah, especially back then, like 79, something like that. It was unbelievable. Hey, we're going to play a song right now from Hungry for Stink. Andres, can you tell me about this song? Give me some background on it.
Well, Andre was a guy in North Hollywood. We rented a rehearsal space from him. He had like a little rehearsal studio, and he ran the place. And he was just super nice guy. And I had a friend who was a drug addict, and he ripped Andre off. And I was mortified. I felt so bad. And, we got Andre's stuff back, but it inspired the song Andre, because the chorus is, Andre, I'm sorry. And so that's where this song came from.
Yeah, I'm sure he appreciated this song. Absolutely.
He kind of, like, I remember he told me he was wearing an L7 shirt to pick up some, like, to-go food. And they said, okay, what's your name? And he said, Andre. And they were like, they looked at him and they're like, are you the Andre from the song? And he's like, yeah, that's me. And he was kind of embarrassed. So we teased him forever with that song every time we saw him. So, but he's a great guy.
Yeah, let's play the song for everybody right now. It's from Hungry for Stink, and let's also mention again Belasco Theater. And we've been talking about it a lot here on the station. You guys will be there for the Fast and Frightened Takeover L7. So let's check it out right now. The Rolling Stones, going back to their debut album and their cover of Route 66, and before that L7 and Andre. And I'm here with Donita Sparks from L7. They've got this incredible show happening Saturday. It's at the Belasco Theater. It's like 15 bands, right, Donita?
15 bands, 3 stages, 5 bars, all ages.
Oh, yes. That's amazing. Oh, see, that's great.
Yeah.
And so let's talk about, the Rolling Stones song and Route 66. Great cover of that song. And it's very special to you.
Well, I love the Rolling Stones. I love all eras of the Rolling Stones. I think I'm partial to this era when they're young and, playing a lot of blues. I'm going to say something controversial, but some of their blues I like even better than American blues, which is really, I know it's a horrible thing to say, but anyway, they rocked in this era of theirs. And this song I've always loved, Route 66, but their version of it is so rocking. And I actually, when I moved to California, I drove on Route 66 to get to Los Angeles from Chicago. So it was literally my soundtrack for that drive. And I drove out here with a guy I knew from high school, and I think he was really having a mental breakdown on the whole trip. So it was quite the trip on
Was
Route
that like
66.
84? What
83.
Year? 83?
Yeah.
Wow, so you drove out then, it's amazing. Being with somebody in a car that long. And
and they're losing their mind.
Yeah.
It's scary. Yeah.
It is, 'cause you're in close quarters, it's very difficult.
Yeah, I was like, am I going to be in the desert? Like, it was very strange. But great trip. And, oh, man, we passed Cadillac Ranch in Amarillo, Texas, or outside of Amarillo, Texas. Do you know what Cadillac Ranch is?
Yes.
Yeah. So that was really cool. And, I think it was maybe a time. I don't know if Route 66 is quite the same anymore. I know it's now called 40, I think.
Yeah,
Interstate 40, but
it was a classic thing. And, it's the song itself written by Bobby Troop, the guy who was the actor in Emergency. Remember that TV show with Randy Mantooth? Randolph Mantooth. I think they mentioned him in a Tube song. They do. But anyway, he was the guy. He drove out from Pennsylvania with his wife. And he passed all those places, and then he wrote the song. And then Nat King Cole was the first guy to have a hit with it. And then the Stones did a great version, Depeche Mode later, right? So it's like, what a great thing. You did the same thing where you took the route.
Yes.
while you're listening to the song, we're like, he came up with the ideas for all the lyrics.
Yes, yes. And, it's a song, my dad used to sing the song when I was a kid, I don't know. I just think that it was just a magical thing to be from Chicago and California dreamin' kind of thing. And that song is just, it's the whole dream right there,
Oh, yeah.
And I'm so glad I drove and didn't fly when I moved to L.A. because I got that kind of washed off Chicago and dove into L.A. and it was a nice trip, except for my crazy friend.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm sure you're probably not in touch with that person anymore at this point.
No.
Yeah, sometimes it's best to part company in that situation.
Yeah.
It's Matt Pinfield in the studio with Donita Sparks from L7. And my voice, since this is a perfect time to go into the spots right here because my voice is going a little bit. It's 88.5 SoCal Sound. The Ramones from their first album, 53rd and 3rd on the SoCal Sound. And before that, we also we heard in there, what did we, well, right before that it was something.
Lou Reed.
Lou Reed, that's right. I Can't Stand It from the very first Lou Reed album.
Yes.
From 1971, which years later there's a Velvet Underground version that came out of that. But we had heard that, and we heard, of course, L7 up top. And with Andre, and I'm in the studio with Donita Sparks right now. I'm so excited to have her here from L7. She's so cool. They're such a great Los Angeles band, so important to the history of Southern California. That combination of punk and just rock and grungy, it was cool. I always loved it. So you have a great thing happening this Saturday, 15 bands. Donita, we're going to talk about those songs that you picked, but we're also going to let's remind people that you're about the show this weekend because it's a cool undertaking and you work so hard on it.
Yes, I worked very, very hard on this, Matt. It's at the Belasco Theater, beautifully restored building on Hill Street, downtown L.A. Doors are at 4:30. It's all ages, 3 stages, 15 bands, 5 bars. So you can bring your kids and, if you choose to, have a drink and lounge. And the rooms are beautiful. It's really stylish. I wanted to put on in essence, a punk festival, but with some style. Panache, chutzpah.
Yeah, and also some, to expose people to some new bands, which is something you've always loved to do.
Yeah.
But we heard Lou Reed.
Yes.
All right, in there. I Can't Stand It. That is one of the great things you're doing here is you're in the Lou Man group. So
yes.
Explain that to everybody because, it's...
Well, I'm doing double duty at the festival because our band L7 is headlining the festival. But a couple hours earlier, my side hustle... Lou Man Group is performing. I'm the drummer for Lou Man Group, and it's a performance art homage to Lou Reed and Blue Man Group, and basically we do Lou Reed covers in Blueface.
Yeah.
And with some props. There will be some Blue Man Group-esque props and shenanigans going on during our set.
I think it's going to be great. How long do you get to play with
Lou Man Group will play a 30-minute set, something like that.
That's great. How do you break that down when Lou has such a catalog? I mean, and so do you at L7.
Well, the closer in our set is the Blue Mask, and we do it very aggressively and really very unhinged.
Yeah.
I sing that one. That's the only one I sing. But everything else, we just went for really catchy Lou stuff, and he was just such a great songwriter, and anyway.
Yeah.
We all love Lou.
Yeah, we do. We definitely love Lou.
Yeah,
he was awesome, and he was just an important artist, and he wrote about things, very early on in the Velvet Underground that were subject matter a lot of people wouldn't dare talk about at that period of time because he talked about some of the the darker side of the street stuff that was going on and.
Yeah, but reality for where he was. I mean, It was reality.
Yes.
That part of New York was filled with all kinds of colorful people and everybody kind of coexisting, for the most part, I guess. And yeah, he was bringing up some, at the time, kind of taboo subject matter.
Yes.
And yet making it catchy as hell.
He was. Those songs were great. He wrote songs about heroin and copying it. I'm waiting for my man, waiting for the man, and the
transgender people.
Yeah, transgender people, and Walking the Wild Side, and also, just about like S&M and Venus and Furs,
yeah,
and things like
all
that.
The good stuff.
He was talking, so Lou was not afraid, and I love that. Lou was such a great guy. I had a really great relationship with him and he was just ended up becoming a very dear friend. So I was very sad when he passed. And speaking of people that are no longer with us, you played the Ramones' 53rd and Third, a song really about what Dee Dee Ramone was doing. He was turning tricks, early on because it was. To have that subject matter on that first record as well. Yeah. Dee Dee was a great songwriter, though.
Dee Dee was a great songwriter.
People don't realize how much Dee Dee had to do, right? Donita with writing the songs for the Ramones.
No, he really brought the demented quality, I think, to the Ramones in their lyrics, of course, and he really lived it. He was like, Dee Dee was Dee Dee. I didn't know the guy well. I met him a couple times, and he was pretty Dee Dee-esque. But I have friends who knew him quite well, and they were like, Dee Dee was full-on Dee Dee, like no pose at all. So it's kind of fascinating. And we were talking during the break. I got that as a cutout in the cutout bin, and I got their next record in the cutout bin. And shall we discuss what the cutout bin was? Because I don't think it exists anymore, right?
Yes, yeah. When you bought vinyl, the cutout bin was where the cheap records were. Now that might be like where you'll find some used records that are, maybe a little damaged or less desirable than some other ones. But the cutout bin was these were actually new records, but sometimes they'd have a hole punched in them.
Yes,
to show that they were promos or they were cutouts. And they were cheaper, and a lot of times you found gems in there. You'd say, "Oh, that looks interesting," and you'd buy that thing for, a quarter of what a regular album would cost.
Yeah, and I grew up in the suburbs of Chicago, and our local record store, all the punk albums were in the cutout bin. All the new wave albums were in the cutout bin. It was like what wasn't in the, like prog rock was not in the cutout bins, or like the Dead or something like that, but. Man, you just go to that cutout bin and you would find some great records in there. So I had, that was kind of my go-to at the local record store.
That's cool, and so that's great. You got the Ramones that way, and I love that you. How did you discover Lou Reed, by the way? Because I know that you're a big fan.
Well, I'm the baby of 4 girls, and I was fortunate enough that my older sisters had fantastic taste in music. Around the house, it was Bowie and Bob Marley and Lou Reed and Patti Smith. Well, so I kind of went from like the Stones and the Beatles and, all the greats to, into kind of more alterno, I guess, of the era.
Yeah.
So that was fortunate. But I was a radio freak. I loved AM radio. I loved soul and disco radio. I loved country radio and FM radio sometimes when they would play, more new wave, cool stuff, whatever.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, at some point, I'm sure there were some good college stations as well, which is important. And it's great. Like, that's the thing about the SoCal sound is there's such a variety of music here, and that's why I love being here.
I love SoCal sound, and I didn't discover it until like a couple years ago, and then I heard you on the radio, and I was like, damn, Matt knows a lot about music. And so I want to say I really appreciate your show here, Matt, because I'm always getting tasty tidbits.
It's because I love the music so much, and I'm working with a whole group of great people here. Like every one of the jocks that are on the air here love music and have their own personality, and I think that's really great.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think that's exciting to me. So I'm just enjoying myself, and I love being here. I'm grateful every day I got a platform.
That's
to
right.
hang out and play music, and also to hang out with friends like you.
That's
know what
right.
I mean? And people that I was a fan before I was a friend. You know what I mean? I was your fan.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was so cool that we and so I'm so glad you are doing this. And let's talk about we're gonna in just a minute we're gonna play one of your songs, but we're also gonna play Red Kross. Now they are the second headliner, and they're such a cool band. Tell me about your, how you discovered them.
Well, when I first moved out to LA. That was the Red Kross were the first band I really grabbed onto because they were like, they had a lot of pop culture references, and they had long hair instead of short hair, and they would wear, very kind of mashup clothing ensembles, which I was very into, clothing of all eras, not of any particular style or whatever. And they just had really great rock songs with melodies and harmonies and a show. They put on a show, and they were both cute. The McDonald brothers, Jeff and Steve McDonald were like heartthrobs, and they were cool heartthrobs. So that was the first LA band that I really connected with when I moved out here. So to get them on this festival on Saturday is a really beautiful moment, because we have not played with Red Kross in Los Angeles since 1991. So This is like the Titans of LA, of that era, they were before us, but still. So very much looking forward to that, Bill.
Yeah, it's going to be a great one. And we're going to first of all, tell us about the song Shove before we go any further, and then we're going to play it.
Well, Shove was our first underground hit. It was on Sub Pop Records. It was on Sub Pop Singles Club, Single of the Month Club, January 1990. And what's interesting, I find, about Shove, it's the first song that Susie Gardner and I wrote that came from our real lives. And before that, we were just kind of writing, songs that were like, we were writing songs that we thought we were supposed to write as a rock band, But Shove was the first one that really came from our lives. And interesting enough, it's the one that resonated the most with, the underground. And so it has a special place in my heart, because it truly, my landlord truly did not like my dog. My boss told me to comb my hair. My father thought that I was nowhere doing this rock band. So all the lyrics are like true. So. Yeah. That's why I like it.
I think it's great. We should play it right now. That singles club that Sub Pop had was so cool back then. We used to look forward to getting those singles.
Yes, in the mail. Mm-hmm.
It was great. Here's L7 and Shove. We'll be back with more of Donita Sparks of L7 in just a little bit. You're listening to SoCal Sound. David Bowie right there, from Station to Station and Golden Years, a song that he actually wrote and wanted Elvis to sing. He... had
offered Elvis to sing?
Yeah, he'd offered. That was a song that he thought of Elvis Presley when it was offered to Elvis. Elvis didn't want to do it, or it was probably, maybe it was even Colonel Tom Parker, but that's who he had in mind when he wrote the song.
Wow.
They were label mates, and he knew that he thought he could get an audience with him, and Elvis wanted other people to write for him, but of course Tom Parker had him tied up in a bunch of different contracts. But
well, Bowie's voice sounds a little Elvis on that track.
That's it. So that's when you can hear it. Like, that's what it is. It's like,
how funny.
And it's great. It's a great song. It's Station to Station. I don't think everybody involved in that album remembered recording all of it, but but it's a great album.
Yeah.
And I saw that tour, and you picked that song. I mean, by the way, if you just tuned in, I am here with Donita Sparks from L7. They've got an incredible thing happening called the Fast and Frightening Takeover at the Belasco Theater. 3 stages, 15 bands, 5 bars, and all ages.
Yes.
Right? It's cool.
I like to repeat that because it rhymes.
Yeah, and so it's just like, I love it because it's bringing together, you guys are supporting new artists that you're bringing on, other punk artists, which I love. And you're also, you've got the guys from Red Kross, who we talked about earlier, playing.
Yes. And we also have the magic of Zzaki. And I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he's a performer at the Magic Castle. And he used to be the singer for Possum Dixon. And
dude, I love that song, Watch That Girl Destroy Me. Remember that song?
Yes, and he left rock and roll. He had it. And he became this really cool kind of Twilight Zone-esque sort of magician. He's got a great act, and he's going to be performing as well. I wanted a really eclectic bill with like performance art and electronica and punk and rock, and he is our fabulous magician, Rob Zzaki.
Wow, I wonder if I saw him the one time I went to Magic Castle as a guest of a friend.
Maybe so. He wears a suit. He's got a creep factor going on with his act.
Yeah,
it's really, really unique and cool.
Yeah, that's cool. I'm glad he's going to be there. Well, when you see him, or maybe I'll see him while I'm there, I'm going to have to tell him how much I liked. We played, at this radio station that no longer exists, one of the first 13 alternative commercial stations in the country, where we played you back then too, at WHTG in Asbury Park, New Jersey, that area. We played that Possum Dixon record. I was real supportive of it.
Good band, L.A. band.
Yeah, absolutely, and I love that. So, I think that was great. And we listened to some Bowie right there as well. And you and I were talking about how much, Nancy Sinatra, how cool she was, right? And especially, her dad was obviously loved her very much. He was a big supporter. He signed her to his record label, Reprise, right?
Yes.
And we also mentioned before we went back on the air how much we loved those Nancy Sinatra, Lee Hazelwood singles and records. So like Some Velvet Morning and Lady Bird and all that stuff. It's just they're unique records.
Very unique, like beautiful and dark, strangely dark. Loved by most punk rockers that I know. Yeah. Lee Hazelwood and Nancy Sinatra. It's staples in many
of those circles, right?
Yes,
people. Yeah,
correct.
And there's covers out there. Like I think Nick Cave and Lydia Lunch might have done it. No, Roland Howard. I can't remember who it was because my brain is it works most of the time.
Yeah, there's a Some Velvet Morning cover. Some band in every town that's covering that track.
Yeah, right now. Yeah, but you picked Sugartown. There's a reason why you picked this Nancy Sinatra song, as you know, because we're listening to some, that's the thing. I invited Donita when we, just like in the past when we've been here, Chris Robinson or Julian Casablancas. We're coming in and we want you to come in and have a good time and spin some of your favorite records. And it's a hang, a hang with everybody else who's listening on the air and us here. It's not uptight. It's not
no.
Yeah, so. It's real, it's just so it's like you're sitting in the living room with some friends, and that's the vibe we want to create and do.
Yes.
So tell me about your Sugartown, because this song I always remember hearing it on the radio when I was a really, really little boy.
I love the song Sugartown. I often sing it when I karaoke. And I love Nancy's voice. She's got this really cool, beautiful voice without a lot of vibrato, just very almost sort of deadpan, but beautiful and melodic, But what's very interesting about this, I follow Ms. Sinatra on the Instagram, and she was promoting like a greatest hits or something, but she said that she does not care for the song Sugartown. I believe I'm quoting, kind of paraphrasing her. But she said, and I never knew this, that Sugartown was about acid. Like a sugar cube of acid. That's what she claimed. I mean, I swear to God, I thought I read that on her Instagram. So, not only do I love...
You probably did. No, I believe you. I believe you probably were right, and you were like, you did a double take on what?
Yes, like sugar cube acid, right? So
yeah, it sounded very innocent when I heard this song on the radio as a little kid.
Yeah, so I love it, and I love pop, like I said, and this era of pop.
Yeah,
and
60s stuff is great. There was a lot of it. Yeah. So did she elaborate on why she didn't like the song?
I don't know if it was the drug reference or maybe she thought, I don't know. Maybe it's just it doesn't have that dark element like the Lee Hazelwood stuff that she did with him.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. But this one I love this song.
And so we're going to play this right now then. Donita Sparks, L7 in the studio here at the SoCal Sound. Yes. Viagra Boys right there, which, by the way, that's their song called Sports, which Donita picked, right? So I was like working in the system a couple days before, and I've got to tell you this because somehow there was a power surge glitch right after, literally I was not in the room yesterday and did I'd done the back cell, meaning like a back announce of the song by the Comsat Angels, which I love, which is called Do the Empty House, which was a post-punk band, very influential on bands like Interpol and the Editors, and came out like the Chameleons and the Sound, and and the thing was, I'm talking about how emotional the vibe was on the Comsat Angels. But that song played instead, Viagra Boys, which actually is funny and has no emotional. It's so here's the funny thing. I was in the other part of the building, right? Because I cut it so I could go and take care of something. And I'm like, oh my God, it was just so funny. But things happen. But I thought it was hilarious. That band, tell me, you picked that band. They are one of the most entertaining, funny bands I've seen. I really appreciate them. I had friends who turned me on them. They're all Swedish except for the singer.
Yeah.
Sebastian Murphy. He's American. And I think he had to skip the country for something. Nothing like, I think it was like a weed charge or something like that. He ran out for like the 3 strikes weed law or something. I mean, that's wild. These are rumors. I mean, I'm not sure if all of it's true.
Well, I love a band with rumors, first off.
Yes.
And I love that they're Swedish. And I thought he was Swedish, the singer, until I found out he was American, and that was even more intriguing. But yeah, what a great band. That the front man is amazing.
And he does perform with his shirt off no matter any time. He's no fear, and I like that.
He's fearless. He's got a little bit of a gut, but
that's kind of cool. Like, I like the fact that he's like, he doesn't care.
He gives zeros.
Yeah. And so I just saw people running over to their set at Bourbon and Beyond 2 years ago because I was there shooting with a bunch of different artists. And I went over there. I remember my girl was like, we got to go see Viagra Boys. So we went over and we saw them, and they were extremely entertaining. They have that song "Punk Rock Loser," which is really. I mean, there's some really funny lyrics.
And he did a John Hyatt cover with Amy Taylor of Emil and the Sniffers too.
Yeah, who are great.
I can't remember what it was, but they have a really cool video, and they used all Getty footage with the watermark on it.
Right.
So it was brilliant. It was
to me, that was it, because it was illegal to do so.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean,
they just left the Getty images stamp on it.
Which was even funnier because, you're not, that's the idea, is that you're supposed to pay for the use of those things.
Right.
That's the correct way people are supposed to do it, but they didn't really worry about that.
They didn't
so
care.
Make the video really funny.
They cared not.
And we played Sugartown before that, Nancy Sinatra. Have you ever, have you ever seen her live or ever tried to reach out to her or meet her? Because
no, I just love her stuff on Instagram, and I think she follows us, and we got very excited over that. But she could have an assistant. I don't know if
who likes L7,
or just saw us following her and commenting. But love you, Ms. Sinatra.
Yeah,
you're
she's
one of my
great.
faves.
That's awesome. And if you just tuned in, I'm here with Donita Sparks and Donita from L7, and we're just hanging out. It's they're doing the show. It's going to be happening at the Belasco Theater, and it's happening Saturday. It starts at like 4:30. I think doors are in the afternoon, right?
Doors are at 4:30, and then I think the bands get going at about 5:30. There's a really interesting band opening on the main stage called the Mexican Standoff, and they're 3 Latinas who sing in Espanol and English, and they've got some real biting lyrics about immigration things and really cool harmonies and melodies, and yet, sock it to them lyrics.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a really cool thing, and it's, like I said, 15 bands, 3 stages at the Belasco Theater. It's such a beautiful place.
Yeah.
I got the DJ there when the Chameleons played, that band from the UK, and who I always loved, in the 80s. So they were just so great. And but yeah, Donita is here with me, and I'm just so happy to have her picking some music today, because that's what we love to do. We are certainly an artist-friendly radio station because we love to bring in the artists that we care about and play.
Yes, this is a bit of a takeover of your show today, Matt.
It is. It's fast and frightening. It's not frightening, though.
No, it's not.
It's not frightening.
No.
I would not call it frightening.
No.
But I'm very happy to have you here. Let's talk about Fuel My Fire, this song from Hungry for Stink. Can you tell me about it?
Well, here's the interesting thing about Fuel My Fire. This song I wrote, and I inadvertently lifted the chord progression from another band that I love very much from Australia called the Cosmic Psychos. Yeah. And they had a song called Lost Cause, which L7 actually used to cover. And then I wrote this song, Fuel My Fire, different theme, different bridge, different verse, but the chord progression was the same as their chorus. And so I called them up and I said, hey, I'm so sorry I lifted your chorus. Can I credit you and split, writer's share and all that stuff? And they were like, yeah, of course. They were friends of ours. Cut to like 3 years later, and the Prodigy cover it on Fat of the Land. And so that took L7 out of the red and into the black.
How great was it that song was on Fat of the Land?
Isn't it insane? And I had no idea. They didn't contact us or anything. We were in France, and our friend said, Donita, do you know that the Prodigy has covered Fuel My Fire? And I'm like, who are the Prodigy? And he played it for me. And I'm like, oh my God, this is great. And then Fat of the Land sold like a gazillion records.
Yeah, I mean, I have a platinum record for it, for being like a early supporter of, getting it, helping get them on MTV, because, they were around for a little while, like Music for the Jilted Generation, and they did a duet with other friends of mine called Pop Will Eat Itself, who, my friend Clint Mansell, he went on to score Requiem for a Dream and Pie and all those Darren Aronofsky movies. So, but he used to be in this band out of like Birmingham, England. So I found out about those guys very early, but I love that. I just think that's the coolest thing ever. Yeah. That's on the record, and it just dawned on me as you were telling me that.
Yeah. No, and it's cool too, because the moral of the story is, if you accidentally lift something from someone, let them know, cut them in, and, the Cosmic Psychos were happy, L7 was happy, and ultimately the Prodigy.
Yeah, and look at the karma
there
thing.
You go.
It's a really cool karma thing by being honest.
That's right.
Being upfront.
Copping to it and cutting them in. And
it was the coolest thing to do.
Yeah.
And it really helped the band out at that period of time, because you know how it is. And, we were going to talk about, we're going to play another song. After we play your song, Fuel My Fire, let's talk about Junior Brown, who's like 72 years old now. You pick some Junior Brown. You listen to everything. You listen to country. You listen to American. Let's talk about it. And because there's a story here that goes back to L7 on the road.
Yes.
And, truck stops and road stops and getting out in the van. And let's talk about it. Tell me that story.
Well, I love Junior Brown because he is contemporary, but he sounds like my favorite era of country music, which is kind of like early 60s, late 50s through the 60s, he's an amazing guitar player. Him and Dick Dale are probably two of my favorite guitar players around. But the thing about Junior Brown, we discovered him on the road. But we before we discovered Junior Brown, we would pull up to a truck stop in our van, and we would run in to the truck stop straight to the cassette rack and look for like trucking songs, and like 6 Days on the Road, and looking through the world, looking through the world out of a windshield. I can't remember. I'm tongue-tied right now. But all those great trucking songs we listened to all the time on the road. And it's like, as soon as we would leave a city, the country would come on in the van. So it's just apropos to listen to country when you're on a road trip. And we would look very scruffy and weird getting out of that van, going into those weird truck stops. But we loved them, and we got great country out of it. And Junior Brown reminds me of that.
That is cool. So we're going to play it right now. Let's check out Junior Brown from Long Walk Back. And I think everyone's had one of those if you've been on the road for a little while. Mm-hmm. Yeah, anyway, so the song is called The Better Half. It's Matt Pinfield in the studio with Donita Sparks from L7. They're doing the big, fast, and frightening takeover at Belasco, downtown L.A. this Saturday. So Donita's come in to hang out with us, play some music, play some of her own music, and celebrate what's going on this weekend right here on the SoCal Sound. Legal Tender right there from the B-52s from Whammy and on the SoCal Sound. And it's always good to hear the B-52s. I love them.
One of the greats.
I mean, it was one of those things that I don't know if I've ever told you, Donita, but it was like, so I was a kid in high school, and I was born in Athens, Georgia, right? But
you were born in Athens?
Yes, but I grew up in Jersey, really. I mean, I was there when I was really young. Uh-huh. So I saw the record in the record store because I was going through looking for new wave and, stuff like that. I was always interested in new things. I listened to everything when I was a kid. I remember turning everybody in high school onto the first Tom Petty album, but I was also listening to, all the punk stuff and, everything. Yeah. And everything. I mean, I didn't care what it was. I just loved all things music. So it was that kind of thing. And I remember seeing this 45 with a girl holding, she's like, it's like paper plates spinning in the air, almost like a Plan 9 from outer space thing. Uh-huh. And, and then I turned it over and it said, Rock Lobster backed with 52 girls, Athens, Georgia, to be 52s. I'm like, oh, they're from where I was born. I'm going to buy this record. Yeah. And I took it home and I fell in love with it. I just knew, and I also knew that it would blow people's minds. Yeah. When you first heard Rock Lobster, because it was great. It had that whole surf thing going on. Totally. Surf guitar.
Guitar, insane vocals.
The vocals were incredible.
Yeah, fabulous. And just their aesthetic, nobody liked the B-52s.
Yeah.
And they were one of my faves always. Like, they were just like, damn, this band is so cool.
They were, it was so great. And, of course, they're paved the way for REM after them, right? Shortly after them, which is great,
Also from Athens.
Yeah, also from Athens. Mm-hmm. But, it's funny, all the people from Athens always say to me, like, you were actually one of the people that were born there. We were like born in New Jersey or born somewhere else. Like Fred Schneider was born in New Jersey.
Was he?
Yeah. Yeah. So, but it's, but it was, there's that, bringing people together for the University of Georgia thing, I think, where my dad went, a GI Bill. But I love that, and I'm glad you played that. You have have you been friends with them in the past? And,
you know what is very interesting, Matt? I have met many of my idols. I've been very fortunate.
Yeah.
But 2 bands have been elusive. The B-52s and the Beatles. I have not met a Beatle, and I have not met a B-52. Yeah. So if any of you guys are listening out there, I want to meet you because I love you so much.
Yeah.
I've met Brian Wilson. I met Mick and Keith. I've been very lucky.
Some of those other idols that you loved, and those are amazing.
I met Bowie. I met the Ramones. I met Lou. I sang with Lou Reed on stage in Australia because I went up to him before the show. We played a festival with him, and I was like, man, I love your album, New Sensations. Like that's my jam. Like, and I don't think he got a lot of compliments on New Sensations. Yeah. And he just kind of really liked me after I said that. And I was like, oh, I love you, Suzanne. I love all those songs, And he's like, do you want to sing I Love You, Suzanne with me on stage tonight? I was like, yes.
That's great.
I got to sing with Lou Reed.
That's amazing. Yeah. I love that you did that.
Yeah, yeah. And like you had said earlier, he was, a tough nut to crack sometimes. Yeah. And he either kind of liked you or he didn't.
I was very fortunate that he liked me a lot.
Yeah.
And we met and it was, I think just if he really knew about his music and kind of understood where he was coming from lyrically, it made a major difference, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But I love that you got to sing with him.
Did.
That's so cool.
I mean, so did my bandmates, but I just say I got to sing with him. But, he just invited us up to sing backup on I Love You, Suzanne, and I stupidly was singing lead with him because I was so nervous and mesmerized by him. But, so...
I'm sure he was totally cool with it.
I think he was cool with it, actually.
But I do hope you get to meet Ringo or Paul.
Yeah.
Ringo.
And I heard you tell a story once, or someone told a story on this radio station about Ringo and Joe Walsh listening to on the way to some Hollywood Bowl or something.
Yeah. Well, they're both members of our audience, subscribers and supporters. And Joe's been a DJ on the air here.
Here we go.
And he just celebrated a birthday yesterday, so I played a Life of Illusion, but I played a lot of James Gang stuff too. And
I love Joe Walsh.
We love Joe. Love Ringo.
But now I might be getting closer to Ringo. Because of this show. Yeah. I don't know. But Ringo and Paul, I would love to meet one, if not both of you, and all of the B-52s. Yeah. I would love to.
It's going to happen.
It's got to.
We're going to will that to happen. Everybody send good vibes, and it's going to happen. Yeah. I got to tell you, I loved having you on today, Donita. It's been really a pleasure to spend time with you and have you come in. We've been friends for a while. I've been a big fan of L7, an early supporter in radio on the other coast, and have seen you live a bunch of times, and then got to, like I said, during the pandemic, we were both doing those shows that were both
out of our houses, out of our homes, apartments, houses, whatever.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's weird because I can get this station on in my car, but I can't get 88.5 in my home.
Well, you got to get the app. You got to do if you go to any search on your phone. Or anywhere.
Is it SoCal Sound?
It's SoCal Sound.
Okay.
SoCal Sound, and it's got the logo, so it's got like the orange and and the writing, and you can see the palm trees and the O. But it's a SoCal Sound 88.5. It's the greatest app.
Yeah.
You know what's great about it too is
I'll get it.
You can if you're traveling. One of my friends did this on the road. He not only can you listen wherever you are, but the shows are archived. Many of them are archived.
Excellent.
So you can go back and hear for at least 5 or 6 days some of the shows, and it's really It's a great thing. Plus, there's so many cool interviews and SoCal Sound sessions on the app.
Archived.
Like the one we're doing right now. Like
cool.
this interview, this will be. So it's really cool.
I can critique myself in Australia or something.
Yes, yeah. I want to thank Matt Blake, by the way, for his incredible work on this.
Thanks, Matt.
We got to give Matt Blake some love.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
baby.
And, of course, Mookie and everybody else who works here as well. And I just am so happy. Donita, this is going to be a great show on Saturday. Again, mention the other bands before we get into our last story here.
Well, we have headlining L7 and Red Cross, and then we also have a great band called Surfboard.
Which I love that name, right?
Surfboard are great. Have you seen them?
No, but I've heard them. But
they're
I like,
wonderful.
Yeah.
They're really great. And we have Olivia Jean, who's very pop, got great style, kind of rock, but pop too. And we've got the Paranoids, and we've got Adult Period, who are kind of goth electronica. And we've got Nice or Nice, Niis. I still don't know how to pronounce their name. But and Flames of Durga from the desert, all kinds of bands.
I got some desert rocks from
Flames of Durga.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
And I know it probably is Nice, or maybe it is Nice. You know how some people do that? You know.
I don't know.
But there's Stranglers had a song called Nice in Nice.
Well, there you go. That covers both.
I guess they were in France.
Yeah.
No,
but I would say that a lot of these bands are the whole festival, Fast and Frightening Takeover of the Blasco this Saturday is it's not all female, but it leans female. You know, we've played a lot of festivals that were like kind of sausage fest. Dude fests.
Speaking of which, one of the coolest things you guys did, right, when I was on the East Coast, and at this point, you know, I was already working at MTV, but I happened to be down at the Warped Tour in Asbury Park. And let's tell the story. Can you tell the story?
I can't believe you were at that Warped Tour. Well, you know, L7 was a co-headliner of the very first Warped Tour. Cut to years later, that was in 95. Cut to years later, we looked at the lineup, and I don't think there was a single woman on that lineup. So we rented a plane, and we flew it over the Warped Tour in Jersey, and it said, Warped needs more beaver. Love L7. So it was one of those, like, you know, like advertising planes. So that's what we did, and you saw it.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's amazing because I think it's so great. I love how brave you are and just cool. I've always loved the band for that. You know, and I love, like I said earlier in the show, I love strong women who are really just, you know. For me, that's always been that way because I've been surrounded by them, you know, all my life. My mom, my sister, two daughters, and my girlfriend, right?
And you know, just the name "Fast and Frightening" that's one of our songs, but that was kind of a guiding light for the kind of bands that we wanted. We wanted chutzpah, style, menace, no shoegazers on this festival.
You were a big fan, obviously, coming up of like, you know, people like Patti Smith and the Pretenders and so many other people. Oh yeah, you know.
I mean,
right?
you know, strong from people. But I'll tell you, these young women are really getting crazy. I mean, it's like, wow, you know, like they're getting very, very feisty and fun and funny. Like they're kind of embracing their fierceness and their humor, which is cool. It's going to be a fun night.
Yeah, I look forward to it. I think it's going to be great. Well, listen, Donita, it was great to have you on. Thanks for coming down and doing a bit of a takeover fest. And it wasn't frightening, as I said, though. But I love that you named that one that because of the song. And thank you for coming and hanging out with us and spinning some of your favorite songs. And we've also played some of these L7 classics. And we're going to play one more before I say goodbye. But first, we're going to take this quick break, and then we'll take care of that. So just want to let everybody know you are listening right now to 88.5 The SoCal Sound or the SoCalSound.org. It's Matt Pinfield in the studio with Donita Sparks from L7. Yeah, I want to see you there. It's we're so excited about that year-end concert, and just to see Ben Gibbard, Brett Dennen, Truesdale, as well as Rosalind all in that same bill. Alex Theater, December 7th. I will see you there. And this weekend, and I'm going to say, we're going to say goodbye to Donita, and we'll continue on with the show. But I just wanted to thank you for coming by.
Thanks for
and
having
hanging
me.
out. You know, it's exciting to get to see you again. And like I said, we saw each other on screens during the entire pandemic.
Yeah.
You know, And I think that was kind of the way we kept ourselves going.
Yeah.
Without a question was
tough times that we're still sort of recovering from. So.
Absolutely. And but music is the thing that's such a unifier. It's a spiritual. It's enjoyable no matter how you use it. Whether it's the humor side of it, the emotional side of it, everything about music. It's just the power. I mean, I love it. And
and it's the community too.
Community is everything.
Yeah,
right?
It's like and this festival we're having on Saturday, this mini fest. It's an opportunity to celebrate cool culture. There's so much said about the culture, weird cultures going on here and there, and this is our culture. This is people who are in the scene, people who have bands or support bands or both, and it's an opportunity for us all to come together, and it's all ages, so bring the kids.
Yeah, it's really cool that you're doing that, and I look forward to seeing you guys.
Yeah,
Jennifer, Susie, everybody. It's going to be a great time, and I just want to tell people once again, it's exciting. So thank you for coming and spending time with us today. We're going to play one more song. Tell me a story behind Fuel My Fire.
Well, Fuel My Fire, like I said, is the song that was, I lifted the chorus by accident from the Cosmic Psychos, and then it turned out to be covered by The Prodigy, and all made a little bit of scratch, and it got L7 out of our publishing company debt. So it was like we went from the red to the black.
Was that because, like a lot of times it's just, if you talked about it, sometimes those deals are loans, right? So
they're loans, and they kind of go to the to your team before they go to you. So the manager gets their cut, the business manager gets their cut. Of this, you might get an advance, but it's like by the time it gets to you, it's really just for it helps to pay for the tour bus. You never really see it, but then you're just in debt. So this got us out of debt, and this is Fuel My Fire.
Yeah, well, listen, thank you so much for coming by, Donita, and I will definitely see you soon, like this weekend, all right?
All right. Thanks,
Donita
Matt.
Sparks, everybody, L7 right here on 88.5, the SoCal Sound, or the SoCalSound.org, and like we brought up before, you got to get the app so that if you're out of range or, you're out of the country, out of state, you can always take us with you. Because that way you'll feel closer to home and closer to the music. It's very important. Here's L7, Fuel My Fire, right here on the SoCal Sound.